Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and with me I have a Rose Analysis. If you want to introduce yourself and basically explain what you've been doing on your YouTube channel and some of the content that you've made.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Rose. I started a YouTube channel during the pandemic, so about March 2020. I just had, some opinions that I kind of would just like tell my partner about or talk to friends about, and I decided, no, let me put them together into videos. So I kind of started doing that. And then I made a video on a Haydur Nation creator, and that kind of blew up. So it kind of threw me into that atmosphere. And since then, I've been very interested into that community. And yeah, but basically I just make commentary videos with my opinions, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Did you notice Amberlynn Reid and Foodie Beauty and that lot, or did you notice Haydur Nation first? Like, which one came first for you?
Amberlynn actually came first. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but this guy made a video and he was doing like eating like Amberlynn Reid for a day. And then that put her onto my radar, and then that opened up the entire world of Haydur Nation for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did some videos on Amberlynn Reid at the very beginning of my channel, but I reached a point where I was kind of like, there's nothing else that I can really say. And my issues with her weren't necessarily her attitude. Like, I did a couple of reaction videos here and there, but as you know, as I made those videos, I kind of reached a point where I was like, well, there's nothing else I can really say. And I think the only real issue that I had, that of any consequence, was that she was Twinkie, to be quite honest, because I think that Twinkie should not be overweight. I'm very passionate about pet care. And I think that's the only real issue you can say, look, that is wrong and she needs to sort that out. I did comment on some of her interactions, like with her friends. I do think she's a bit iffy with that. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's not really consequential. So when I saw a lot of people reacting to like every single video, I was kind of like, this is getting a bit much. Like, is there a moment that you realize that this is a bit much to focus on just these creators, or like Foodie Beauty or Amberlynn Reid? Was there a specific moment where you thought, hang on a minute, or was it just over time it was getting a bit much?
I think for me with Amber, it was kind of immediate. I saw that, okay, people were kind of frustrated with her because she was always saying that she wanted to lose weight, and then she clearly wasn't. But I kind of saw that as sort of her own problem. And then, like, as I learned more and more about her, I was like, okay, I can understand people's frustrations, but I thought that it was always over the top. So one of the first channels that I found, or first Reactors, was Charlie Gold. And at first I did like her because I was like, okay, she's also overweight, but she's trying to make a change in her life. And I can appreciate her perspective. I feel like out of everyone's perspectives, hers was kind of the most important as someone who was also overweight. But then I felt like it got really nasty very quickly, and I was getting really turned off watching it. And then I started to see, wait, this is sort of a pattern. Like, all of these reaction channels are pretty nasty, some more than others. But that was kind of the moment for me where I was like, kind of seems excessive when we're commenting on like Amberlynn's nails or like the state of her home, or, whatever. That seems like, why do we need to make videos about that? As for Foodie Beauty, for me, it was also with Charlie. She kind of started out saying that she would address Chantel once and then kind of leave it at that. But then I just saw video after video, and I was like, this is kind of insane. Like, Chantel is very far from perfect, and I totally see that. But I don't see why we need to make so many videos about the same things. It's just like, okay, we can accept that these are maybe shitty people, and then say your piece and kind of keep it pushing. But that's clearly not something that we plan to do. Yeah.
A lot of my original content was relating psychological theorem, not diagnosing. I never diagnose anyone. But for example, I talked about the loci of control, where people place their control either being internal, so they believe that they have control over over their life, and then the external loci of control, which was where they believe that other factors are impacting their life and they can't control it. So I take small things like that and apply it to Amber. So it's, in a way, people can understand like psychological theorem by having a case study without diagnosing a person with a very specific thing. I did have a couple of problems with her when it came to mental health and her like statements about it. I couldn't give you an example because, by God, it was so long ago. But, you know, like I said, there are things that are problematic about these people, but I don't think it has to be repeated so often, which is why I stopped making videos. When I reached like what, my 10th video, I was kind of like, well, I'm kind of done with this topic. I mean, I'd be covering a lot of things from the very beginning of her channel to like when I had cut, and by the time I'd like covered everything, I was like, that's it. I didn't really see any point in carrying it on because, you know, I'm sure these people, like, obviously they hype it up for the camera. Amberlynn Reid and Foodie Beauty's personality types, they don't mesh with me, not my cup of tea. I'm more of a reserved person. I can understand why people find that a bit irritating, but I wouldn't make a channel off of finding somebody irritating. It seems a bit counterproductive to me.
Exactly. I agree with that completely. Yeah.
What do you think are the main problems with Haydur Nation? Like, are there any particular problems that you're kind of like, that really stand out to you?
I think it's the nitpickiness, I think is the biggest thing for me. Because like we mentioned, like there are very valid things, I think, to call out against like Amber and Chantel. But I think looking at every single aspect of their life, every live stream, every video, every single thing that they do, and turning it into them somehow being a terrible person, to me, I think is the biggest problem. So like how you said you've created maybe about 10 videos and you try to offer like a different perspective, which I can appreciate. I think that like a psychological angle can be pretty cool, but just kind of playing their videos and saying, oh, why'd she say a word that way? Why does her house look like that? Why do her nails look like that? Why'd she spend so much money on that? I think that's like absolutely ridiculous. And it just shows me that they're not doing this because they're passionate about it in any sort of way. It's just, I think these people really have a lot of like deep internalized problems with themselves, whether it is their weight or just maybe shame around their own personality, or maybe they were bullied in their lives. And now Amber and Chantel, because no one's running to their defenses, sorry, it's very easy to continually make videos on them and make that money and not really receive any backlash because no one's going to really call you out for it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time when they criticize these people for being defensive, it comes from the notion that nobody else is really defending them. I mean, they do have their followers that will defend them, you know, to the ends of the earth. Everybody's got, you know, every public figure has supporters like that. But I do feel like a lot of the defensiveness does come from the fact that every single video they upload will be critiqued, whether or not it's relevant. Like, for example, I have no problem generally with people making one-time videos like, look at Twinkie, this isn't healthy for a dog, or looking at Chantal's apartment and looking at the state that the cats might be in and saying, this is not healthy for a cat or a dog, because these are serious issues and so people are passionate about pet care and people are passionate about those things. And I have no problems with that being done. But then when you're going to go on and talk about like, Foodie Beauty shaved her head, and it's like, so are we actually going to do this? Because
exactly,
it makes little sense. I mean, with Foodie Beauty, I think she generally does it a bit more than Amberlynn. Like, there's the use of the devil's lettuce and then going out driving. I've heard of that or something. I do think that is something that should be discussed. But then again, are these really the issue? I think those are like issues people bring up in defense as to why they're covering this person. Like, somebody will say to one of the creators that covers maybe Foodie Beauty, and they'll be like, why are you constantly reacting to this person? And then they'll reel off a list of the more serious things that she's done without it being relevant to what they're actually talking about at that moment.
Exactly.
Do you think there are any main members of Haydur Nation? Like, who are Haydur Nation to begin with? Who would you consider to be part of Haydur Nation?
I guess I would say Charlie Gold, Michael B. Petty. Like, despite him not uploading anymore, he's pretty active on Twitter. Zachary Michael, Young Dumb Honey Bun. I guess Callie, Life of a Free Spirit. Those are the main people that I think about when I think of Haydur Nation. But then there's like a bunch of tiny like branch off channels of these people, other reaction channels, compilation channels, and then now you have the quote unquote aunties who are also, I guess, sort of part of Haydur Nation in some way, although we're like critiquing it.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
there's Haydur Nation, then there's a community of anti-Haydur Nation, so it's a community that has an entire community that are again. It's quite beautiful because I've never seen that before
I
online.
know, right?
I feel like somebody should be studying this. Like,
I really think so. I would love if somebody would just do an entire case analysis on this because I think it's very interesting how it's like started from Amber and Chantel to like all of this to the point where these people are fighting each other now, and there's just like all these accusations and people are meeting up in real life. Like it's honestly really crazy.
yeah, I mean, in my part where I made a video about YouTubers and mental health, and I talked about how there are different categories that I'd put creators in. There are first creators that have never made any videos at all about their mental health, but they're still talked about it because of it. For example, Eugenia Cooney. Then there's the second type, which are people who have mentioned it, but they've kind of made it like a living off of it, whether that be directly or indirectly. And then there's the third type where people either hype up or even possibly fake mental health problems with the intensive purpose of getting views. And I think Amberlynn Reid and Foodie Beauty kind of fit sort of between 1 and 2. I think they started off with weight loss. They didn't necessarily touch on like their issues, but I think people started picking up on that. And I think somewhere around the line, I wouldn't fault them. If they're going to make money, make money. I mean, fair enough. Just don't put yourself... Well, it's hard with this kind of topic because you say don't put yourself or others in danger, but by very virtue of what they do, sometimes it can be perceived as putting themselves in danger with health problems. But I feel like they didn't start off necessarily with like, I'm going to talk about all of this. I feel like that might have been a consequence of the attention that they were getting. So
I think so. Yeah.
While people criticize them for showing off their mental health problems and profiting off of it, they're also doing the same. The reason that they're doing it is because it's getting them attention by you guys reacting to it.
Mm-hmm, exactly. I do think also that the mental health stuff was kind of put into their heads, like people who were defending them, they're like, well, they're clearly mentally ill women, and I think they've latched onto that. They're like, yeah, I'm mentally ill. I have an eating disorder. So I do think to some degree they do use it as a bit of a shield. But I would say that they both clearly earn enough money off this platform to be able to pay for treatment. So there's not really an excuse. They're kind of just living with the fact that they have these disorders, but they have the capability to fix it. So I just feel like I don't know if it's just it's easier to just kind of live life this way because they make a lot of money, although they could monetize a sort of like recovery journey, but they obviously feel this is much easier to just shield behind the fact that you can't be fat phobic against me, you can't talk about my eating disorder, continue to do that, continue to make money. So that aspect of it I don't really understand.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think there are any particular members that you would take issue with, or ones that you think that have a really good point in regards to Haydur Nation?
I honestly don't really care for any of them. I never really did. I think I've never really understood Haydur Nation at all. I'm sure there are some out there that make valid criticisms or are entertaining, because I'm totally for a channel that's like funny about it and they can make fun of them in a very like lighthearted way. I think I forget his channel name, Alex is Shook. I feel like he's more of he does it in a funny way. He's not angry about it. There's not that emotion behind it. But I think most of them are pretty angry and emotional about them, and I don't understand that.
Definitely. So in regards to issues with Amberlynn Reid and Foodie Beauty, do you agree with them on anything, or are there things that you would point out and say, I definitely disagree and therefore would slightly side with Haydur Nation on?
I guess I side with Haydur Nation on the fact that, yes, they kind of are monetizing their eating disorder. I'd say Chantel more than Amber. I think Amber's content is fairly like neutral. She's not always eating on camera, and I don't think Chantel does that as much anymore, but she was really binging on camera. And I think that I would have to agree that you're clearly severely unhealthy and you're making no change about that, and then you're eating large amounts of food online or admitting to spending thousands of dollars on takeout every month. And so I would have to agree with that. But other than that, I'd say, as we said, I think it's okay to make your criticisms, make a couple videos, say what you need to say. But after that, you're kind of doing a bit too much. It's going way overboard. I don't think I agree with Amber and Chantal on many things. I don't really watch them anymore. I think their biggest problem is that they overshare. I think they explain way too much. They show way too much. It's very unfiltered content. Amber doesn't really edit. Chantal just live streams, and that just opens you up to more criticisms because you're not filtering anything out. But even though that's a thing, I don't think that it's fair to just react to every single thing that they do. So it's tough. I don't really know where I stand with Amber and Chantal. I'm more just like, leave them alone. If we ignore them, if you hate them so much, if you ignore them, they will go away because they won't have an audience. But yes, the more that you react, the bigger their channels get, and the more attention they ultimately get in the end.
Exactly. What do you think is the dumbest issue people have taken with them, apart from the state of their homes and nails? Is there a specific instance? Like, for example, I saw. So I don't know if it was a troll or not, but Chantal got a tattoo that said Aries on it, and somebody was saying, oh, it blatantly says fries. And I don't know if that was a troll or not, but I can definitely see people taking that and running with it. It clearly said Aries on it. She is an Aries, so
I remember that. Yeah. I can't think of a particular situation. Maybe more recently, I don't know if you saw, but Amber said that she was contacted by the FBI. Somebody had made a mean comment in her comment section on a video, and they were kind of threatening her. And then people reported the comment, and now the FBI has been involved. And, I don't really know if I believe her, honestly. I think someone's just playing with her and she's thinking it's real. But there were a couple channels who made videos on it, and Young Dumb Honey Bun, for instance. And she was pretty pissed about the situation. And I was confused because I was like, clearly this is either someone who's pretending to be the FBI or Amber's just flat out lying. And it's just like, this could be a funny video. We could laugh about this, how stupid of a situation it is. But she got emotional and kind of hinted to the fact that Amber was a bully now, because Amber said that the FBI told her she can call them anytime, someone maybe leaves a mean comment or whatever. And she was like, well, that's bullying because that's saying that you have leverage over people who make mean comments. It was just very ridiculous. So it's things like that. I'm sure there have been many, many more, but I try to not think about it too much.
Yeah, because obviously I've watched both of your videos. I think the one that stuck out was definitely Young Dumb Honey. I'm just going to call her Young because that's a tongue twister if I ever heard one.
I know, right?
She said that she was a successful immigrant woman or something. It made me giggle a bit. Just because a lot of the people here, I don't want to be rude, but if we look at social status and attributes that make a person appear to be more successful, then definitely Amberlynn Reid would, anyone can get on camera and say, look at me, I'm thriving, and in comparison to Amberlynn, because of
exactly
the societal expectations that we had of people, a thin blonde with, I think she's got blue eyes, in a first world country saying I'm thriving. I'm like, sis,
Yeah.
Clearly, I believe she's white anyway, though she says she's an immigrant woman. I'm a bit confused by that. But
Polish and then moved to the UK, so I guess that makes her an immigrant. But I mean, she's,
for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, you're still white. I don't know.
It's sis, tell me more about your struggles.
Honestly, yeah, that's her shtick. Being an immigrant woman and having to learn English, and
that just reminds me of Angelica Oles, who was like, I can't be anti-Semitic, I'm Polish, and I'm like,
oh my god,
this do not cite the Polish government or the country of Poland for when making a case that you're not anti-Semitic. Sis, stop.
Oh my god, these people.
And she blocked me after I pointed out that the Polish were Angelica Oles, she blocked me after I told her, the Polish government still won't give the Jews their property back. And it's been how long since World War II? They still won't give it back. I don't know why you're citing that that it was a whole thing. She still
I don't
got
know
me
too much.
God bless.
Oh no, I don't know too much about her, but I heard she's not very good for taking criticism. That's similar to Young as
Yeah,
well. Same, you will just get blocked instantly.
they could. I've never interacted with her. I mean, the only I saw about the merchandise she brought out, which was really weird. Like,
Mhm.
do you want to touch on that a bit more? Because she brought out merchandise about Amber, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Amber went on a Snapchat rant, and she called Hater Nation like disrespectful pieces of shit. But then she kind of misspoke and called them despectful pieces of shit. And Sarah, that's when she went on like an hour-long video rant. That's where the infamous coconut oil rant came from. And then she kind of made a joke about making merch out of it. And then she actually did a couple days later. So she put the despectful piece of shit line, and then she drew a picture of Amber, like a very distasteful image of Amber, put it on a t-shirt and put it out. But there was like immediate backlash. Most people were like, okay, this is crossed the line, this isn't cool, like you can't you drew Amber to look very like dumb, and then to put it on a shirt and sell it, it was just a very bad look. And she didn't take the criticism very well. She was like, well, I've already made it, I'm doing this, it's staying up. And then like I think like a day or two later, she was like, okay, I guess since you guys think it's bad, I don't want to upset my audience, so I'm going to take it down. So it was never okay, I can see where you're coming from, I understand how this can be harmful. It was like, well, I think she just didn't want to get canceled, essentially. So she was like, if this bothers you, I will take it down. So that was that situation.
Yeah, I don't have my own merch. I just make my own plushies on Etsy, and they're completely separate things. It's not my merch. But even if I was to bring out merch, I wouldn't make it about somebody else. That seems really weird.
Yeah.
And also, who would actually buy that?
That's what I'm wondering.
I don't understand like ironic merch or like, joke merch. Like who's gonna buy that? It's so bizarre, and it definitely does take things to a whole level, because this is a person, this is a different person. Even if it was like an objectively horrible person like Onision, I wouldn't make merch and sell it, because, well, most importantly, I don't think anyone's ever going to buy it. So what's the point? Mm-hmm. And number two, it's a different person. I can criticize him for the objectively terrible things he's done, but I don't think making a shirt and profiting of it is any way, shape, or form productive whatsoever.
Exactly. And why would you want to wear that person's face on a shirt? And I think you said something interesting. It's like they don't really, I don't know if they see Amber as a real person. That's the thing. So I think she made this merch, didn't think twice about it, because she doesn't actually see Amber as like a person with like feelings. And I know she's not perfect, but ultimately she still is a person who's being extremely vulnerable online, who clearly needs a lot of help and wants to just make content, live her life just like the rest of us. But I think there's a major disconnect in seeing her as an actual human being with feelings.
Yeah, I feel like when they make the memes, that's how they view her, as a meme, not as an actual person. She might be in real life what they think she is. She may well be a terrible, rude person who's manipulative and all of that grand stuff. She could very well be that, but at the end of the day, she's still a person. And even if she is as bad as they say she is it really right for you to take a human being and turn their entire life into a meme?
Exactly.
And that's when I realized I kind of like, I haven't got any of my Amber videos up, because while I don't think I was particularly harsh, I did make some low blows. I definitely made some low blows, because I'm not going to say that I'm not a dick. I have. But when I reviewed them, I was like, is this really necessary? I mean, it was like 2 years ago when I started my channel, and it was more so building up my YouTube page. And that's what I was doing. And then when I look back, I was like, you know what? This isn't really that cool. I'll take them down. But people who still make videos, it's got to be so draining making videos on basically the same select subjects. Like I know some people daily upload. Harley TBS, they are out there daily uploading. Don't know how they do it, but they do. But even if it's just like every week, or a couple of times a week, how it's got to be so draining just to do the same things over and over.
That's what I think as well. And that's why I think at this point it really is just for the money. It's I don't know. I'm like, do you really care about the things that Amber's doing? Or is it just like, I know that I can find a way to twist this, make her seem more awful and upload it and people will agree? Because I'm like, there's just no way that you look at the world this way, or every person you interact with, and just overanalyze like every single thing that they do. I would burn out really fast if I were making this sort of content all the time. Or like the way that, Charlie, she reacts to Chantel's live streams, and those things are like an hour or two long. And I'm just like, how are you possibly sitting there for hours playing the whole thing, making comments? Like, I would burn out so quickly from that. That's just ridiculous. And I think too, what you were saying about how you saw those videos, you kind of rewatched them, and then you ultimately decided to delete them. I think that these people don't have that ability to kind of look at themselves and see what kind of person they've become, or what they've kind of created online. Like their I guess digital footprint in some respect is like, you've only talked about the same people for the past couple of years, and there's no growth in that. There's no ability to say, maybe this is a bit much, or, maybe I've said all I can say. These two have no intentions of changing. I'm going to move on. I'm going to make my content better. I'm going to talk about different things, different people. But I just don't think that's coming for any of these people.
Definitely. I think it's just so, I can't, I get bored from just watching them. I can't imagine what it's like making it. Like, I feel like that's the problem again. It's a wider problem with YouTube. When you view YouTube as a career or a potential career, it's going to drain you, and it's not viable. And that's why I don't do it as a career choice. Like, people have said to me, oh, you add music in the background, make sure you do noise reduction on your audio. And I'm just like, can you understand what I'm saying? Okay, cool. Then this video is fine. I've improved the quality to make it as best as I can, which is why I edit videos now. But apart from that, I'm not too interested in being, because it just sounds draining, and that's where it ends up. And I think Haydur Nation is a really good example of just repetitive content that has to be boring to make, and even more boring to watch.
I think so. I think a lot of them have just kind of pushed themselves into that corner. So maybe the intention was only to react to a couple here and there, but they saw the success of that and they continued doing it. And now it's like, anytime they try to release content that's not about Amber or Chantel, it doesn't have the same reception. So they're like, okay, well, I kind of have to keep doing this. And if this is the only job that they have, then they definitely have to. But I think, it's good to branch out and at least try. And maybe a lot of your audience won't be receptive to it, but you can attract a new audience by talking about something else. But I don't think that there's any desire to do so for many of them.
Do you think that's what's caused some of the more recent infighting? I know we're a bit out of the loop with that, but I feel like the tensions have got to be showing somewhere. If it's not showing in their video production, I think the frustration must come from somewhere, because all of these people, let's be fair, they've come together and got to know each other for a mutual distaste for one or two other people. I mean, what much they don't have that much in common. I feel like, do you think maybe that's the reason why there might be some more infighting and things are like splintering?
I could see that. Yes, I could see that. I think that maybe as well, there's like a bit of a realization that there's only so much I can say. Like, they're running out of things to nitpick, and then so they start looking at each other, and then they start, picking at each other and nitpicking the things that they're doing. Because a lot of this drama, like Amber and Chantel's names are nowhere near it at this point, and it's so crazy to see. So I definitely think that could be a factor.
Especially with like the backlash that they're getting with anti-Haydur Nation. Like, I think we've seen it before with Gabby Hanna. Like, Gabby Hanna was a massive topic for a good year or so, even before that. And then there were people from the commentary community that came out and said, look, she has done some really questionable things and she has been a terrible person at times. But are we really going to sit here and nitpick everything that girl has ever done? You know, I feel like once you have a community that's or like even just individual creators continually spurging out content that's just about the same thing over and over again, it's bound to get some backtrack, and I think that, you know, will backlash, and that's where it's going to come to. So do you have any predictions for like Haydur Nation in the future, or like what do you think? Is it dying? Is it dead?
I think that it is dying a bit. I feel like it would take sort of a very big creator shedding a light on this community for us to see any sort of change, maybe to see reactors starting to pull back. But I do think that it will eventually die out because it is so repetitive. As we can see, Amber, I don't think has any genuine intentions of changing or actually losing weight. And that is her complete choice. And as with Chantel, I maybe Chantel, there will be kind of like a branch off of more people reacting to her just because she's really gone off the deep end, in my opinion, with, doing drugs and driving and talking, you know, being very open about like an abusive relationship she was in. So I can see maybe that sort of carrying on. But as for people reacting to Amber, I think that it will eventually die off. I think we're already starting to see it. And I think even on her own channel, we're seeing like views kind of going down. So as that happens naturally, then less people will become interested in the reaction channels. And I think, I think we definitely hit the peak already. I don't see much more interest coming anytime soon.
Yeah, because I just decided to look at her stats. I mean, Amberlynn Reid seems to be doing pretty well. I don't know about Foodie Beauty, but I feel like the reactions, it seems to be just like as they grow, other people start to notice the other issues, and then they go to it's a reciprocal relationship, or what's the term? It's like, you know, they go around and they discover Amberlynn Reid or Foodie Beauty, then they discover the reaction channels. But I think there's only so long that can last. It's not sustainable. I mean, looking at Foodie Beauty, she's gaining, but Sunday apparently she lost about 100 views, so I have no idea what happened there. But I feel like even if I think Haydur Nation would probably I think in itself, even with Amberlynn Reid and Foodie Beauty still thriving or like growing, like something in Haydur Nation is going to give at some point.
I think so. I hope so. I think that these people, they, you know, despite me not agreeing with the content, they've built really big platforms, which is incredible. And it's like, you can take this and do something a lot better with it. But analyzing everything that they do, I just don't think it's really going to like pay off in the long run anymore. I think Chantel's growth has stagnated quite a bit. I feel like she was on a like good path and she was growing when she was making actual recorded and edited content. But now that she only does live streams, I think that people are getting kind of tired of the live streams. It is kind of boring to just watch hours and hours of her, you know, laying in bed or driving. It's kind of boring. You know, Amber, at least she tries a little bit. She gets ready for the camera, but I'm not sure if it's looking good for Chantel anymore.
I mean, it doesn't look like either of them are gaining subs. Their views are all right, but what do you think what will happen eventually when Haydur Nation does die? I mean, do you think the reactor channels are going to be able to make their own content or find somebody else, or do you think it's just going to crumble alongside it?
I think many of them will crumble. I think Zachary Michael, he currently does content on other people. You know, those like TLC shows, those like 500-pound sisters or something like that. And those get quite a good amount of views. So I think he will do well because he also has a personality behind it. And I think that's a big thing, is that a lot of these creators don't actually have personalities, in my opinion. So someone like Charlie Gold, for instance, I think that, let's say if, you know, Chantel stopped uploading tomorrow, I don't foresee her being able to carry on with her channel. I don't see what else. I don't think she even knows what's going on with anyone else because she spends so much time focusing on Chantel. Young Dumb Honey Bun, again, when she uploads content not related to Amber, it doesn't get many views. So I don't think many people are here to, they don't really care for them as creators. They just want to know what they're going to say about Amber, and they kind of want to laugh at it and they want to make comments, but I don't think that there's a genuine interest for them, and I don't really see them growing if they stop making this kind of content.
Because she kind of gives me the idea that if there is content that she would, if it doesn't get the amount of views she would hope, then I don't think she would carry on. That's what she gives me the kind of vibes of, that she's more interested in the views. I mean, how can a person sit there and like say all of these things about Amber, then also say, oh, I watch the videos on mute in the background so she can have AdSense? It's like, what?
Oh my God, that was ridiculous, and that was such a lie.
You can't sit here and claim blatantly that you care about a person and then to start talking about whatever the hell random crap you can nitpick in the next. It doesn't make any sense.
They all, a few of them do say that. I just want to see her get better. I do care about her. And I'm like, I don't think this is the way you show you care about someone. Maybe privately message her and say, like, I care about you and I want to see you be better. But the content that you're uploading says otherwise, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we've touched on everything in particular. It was really good having you on. Is there anything you want to add, or anything else that you think in the future you would work on your own channel?
I've kind of gotten back into the whole Haydur Nation thing, even though I said I was like, no, I'm done and washing my hands clean. But it is interesting. So I am working on a new video. I haven't uploaded in a long time, but I am working on a part 2 of the Young Dumb Honey Bun video that I made before. I'd like to go more in depth this time. So that'll be coming soon. But other than that, no, I just, as we said, I do think that Haydur Nation is going to kind of slow down, and I think that it's already hit its peak, and that I'm just kind of interested to see what happens once it does slow down. Will people just stop uploading? Will they try to venture into other topics or other people? So I'm just very, very interested to see where it goes and how long this will go on for, and what this infighting will turn into as well. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's been great having you on. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so much. Yeah, okay. I did. This is great. Thank you so much.
And to you guys watching, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.